Thorn is my best friend, and I'm secretly in love with him, but he hates this kind of thing. To avoid awkwardness in the future, I decided to confess, at least part of it. I like guys. He frowned. What did you say? He was clearly upset. Terrified he'd misunderstand, I quickly added, don't worry, I already have a boyfriend. Thorn's face darkened, his voice icy cold. Say that again. See you on Saturday, senior. A junior from our club, sweet and adorable, smiled and waved at me. I nodded back. See you Saturday. Suddenly, an arm hooked around my neck from behind, pulling me backward into a broad chest. The motion was so familiar I didn't have to turn around to know. A low, resonant voice said behind my ear, what's happening on Saturday? His breath brushed the sensitive skin at my ear, leaving a faint warmth that prickled down my back. I tilted my head away from him. Aren't you supposed to have training today? Thorn rested his chin on my shoulder and reached out to turn my face back toward him. You're meeting that girl Saturday? I've never seen her before. When did you two get close? He was always like this, touchy, comfortable, absolutely no boundaries, just normal guy friend roughhousing. But for someone like me, someone who liked him, this was pure torture. I pried his hand off and stepped aside. She's a junior from the club. There's a club event on Saturday. Thorn straightened up, speaking in that lecturing tone of his. I keep telling you, competition is tough nowadays. Focus on your studies. Romance can wait until you have a job. Romance? I didn't even dare dream about it. He didn't know what I felt, and I couldn't let him know. I nodded absently. Thorn slung an arm over my shoulders again and steered me toward another path. Come on, keep me company during training. At school team practice, spectators were never in short supply. Thorn was always the one everyone watched. Tall, long wingspan, sharp movements. And that face, which made campus headlines on day one. My eyes followed him without thinking. My heart sped up. Was I really that shallow? Thorn walked toward me, wiped his sweat with his arm, and rasped, water. I snapped back to reality and looked around for his bottle, but Thorn simply grabbed the half-finished bottle of water in my hand, and emptied it in one go. I had no time to stop him. That was the bottle I drank from. Hey, senior. A lively freshman from the team jogged over. How was that? I wasn't worse than Thorn out there, right? I smiled and praised him a bit. He puffed up proudly. Anytime you want to learn basketball, just come to me. I'll teach you personally. Thorn flicked the empty bottle at him, voice oddly cold. Get lost. His teammates dragged the freshman away, laughing. You trying to teach Thorn's little spouse how to play? Are you tired of living? Because I always helped Thorn out, carrying his stuff, handling errands. His teammates jokingly called me his little wife. I used to blush like crazy, but Thorn always joked along. So eventually I learned not to take it seriously. Thorn pushed his hair back and looked at me. If you want to learn basketball, come to me. No one here plays better than I do. If it weren't for him, I'd be spending my free time in the lab, not wasting hours sitting at a basketball court. After training, everyone rushed to the food stalls outside campus. They ordered mountains of food. Boys our age could eat like wild animals. I sat beside Thorn, barely touching my beer. After stuffing themselves, someone suggested truth or dare. A few rounds later, the bottle landed on me. Truth or dare? Judging by the kinds of questions they had been asking, there was no way I'd choose truth. So I picked dare. But dare wasn't much better. Give a kiss to the person closest to you. Everyone immediately burst into laughter and whistles. Thorn was on my left, a teammate sat on my right. Everyone knew we were close, so the choice seemed obvious. Even Thorn leaned back, arms folded, waiting with a lazy smile. But I panicked. I didn't even dare glance at his expression. I took a deep breath. Sorry, teammate. Under everyone's stunned stares, I leaned right. But before I got close, someone grabbed the back of my collar and yanked me backward. I stumbled and looked up. Thorn's face was darker than the night around us. Rowan, do you know what you're doing? He stayed moody for the rest of the night. After paying the bill, he dragged me away first. Walking behind him, I sighed. His small, inexplicable reactions like this, they used to make me hope. Until that one incident. We were from different departments, but we were assigned to the same dorm. Maybe because I had a gentler personality, we got along well. He appeared cold and distant to others, hard to approach. But with me, he let his guard down. Softened, even. He treated his chosen friends well. Too well. By the time I realized what was happening, my head was filled with thoughts of him, and I couldn't make them stop. At the height of my feelings, I almost confessed. Then Cassiel appeared. He was in Thorn's department, handsome, cheerful, very proactive. He put a lot of effort into getting close to Thorn. It didn't take long for me to realize he liked him too. I was even a little jealous. Jealous of his courage. Maybe because Thorn kept responding coldly, even annoyed. Cassiel confessed to him one drunken night. Thorn's expression instantly turned frightening. He snarled, "Get out," then blocked Cassiel everywhere, and never spoke to him again. I once cautiously asked Thorn why he reacted so strongly. He looked straight at me and said, "It wasn't anger, it was disgust." Thorn had been stalked once in high school, the obsessive kind. That person, after being rejected, even threatened to hurt himself. He was saved in the end, but the whole incident left a deep mark on Thorn. He grew to resent any guy who approached him with questionable intentions. After the Cassiel incident, he even made a public post. "Straight, don't bother if you're not a girl." My heart dropped straight to the bottom. From then on, I never dared show even a hint of my feelings. Back at the dorm, we washed up and went to bed without exchanging a single word. I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Thorn had a strong sense of territory. Protective, possessive, sometimes in ways he didn't notice himself. His attitude toward me was different because of that. Sigh. Back then, I misunderstood everything. We almost couldn't even stay friends. I unlocked my phone and made a post. Maybe there were people out there dealing with the same confusion I was. Surely someone wiser than me. Not sleeping yet. Thorn's voice came suddenly in the dark, making me jolt. Our beds were pushed head to head. Even with my blanket covering the phone, the glow of the screen must have leaked out. I hurriedly turned it off, and tightened the blanket around me. The next morning, Thorn's temper had cooled, but for the next half-month, we barely saw each other. He was busy with the school league, I was busy preparing for the anniversary celebration. I'd originally held a small, idle position in the club, but I got pulled last minute to serve as the opening announcer. It wasn't a hard job, but the thought of Thorn possibly sitting in the audience made me nervous. I changed in the small backstage room, and just as I finished buttoning up, someone pushed the door open. I blinked. Senior Kalen. Kalen was from my major, an alumnus who had graduated several years ago and was now an honored guest of M University, dressed in a suit, looking mature and steady. "I figured you'd be here. Thought I'd come say hi." Surprised? I shook my head. "You weren't on the guest list, I thought." Kalen smiled. "Just passing by, but I wondered if I might run into you, so I came in." I laughed politely. "I'm about to go on stage. Next time, let me treat you to a meal." He had guided me academically before. A meal was the least I owed him. He gave me a gentlemanly glance. "I'll look forward to it." As he left, he crossed paths with Thorn walking in. Thorn frowned. "Who was that?" "He's not from our school, is he?" I didn't have time to deal with Thorn's suspicion. Heat was flooding through me. I tugged at my collar. "Thorn, find the remote for me. I'm burning up." Thorn stared at me for a long second before snapping back. "Oh, yeah." He lowered the temperature and frowned at the sweat on my forehead. "Why are you sweating this much? Are you feeling unwell?" I lifted the edge of my jacket to show him. The shirt underneath was a fitted style, cinched tightly at the waist. "It's too tight, kind of suffocating." Thorn went silent for a beat, mumbling, I could wrap both hands around. I didn't hear the rest. I was already heading out to the stage. I only handled the first part of the opening announcements, and afterward, I changed clothes and went to dinner with Thorn. When I unlocked my phone, dozens of notifications popped up. Most were people joking around or sending selfies. Only one user, someone going by R, sent me a long, thoughtful list of suggestions. "What's got you so focused?" Thorn put freshly cooked meat into my bowl. I quickly closed the screen and flipped the phone over. I ate distractedly the whole meal. Thorn finally put his chopsticks down, looking stern. "Rowan, you're not secretly dating someone behind my back, are you?" I shot him a look. "If not because of you, I might have had enough ex-boyfriends to form a mahjong table." R and I started talking more, and surprisingly, we clicked. Turned out he lived in the same university town, at the music academy next door. Eventually, we decided to meet, but I didn't want Thorn to know I was meeting someone from online. Thorn had an apartment off campus, and sometimes his high school friends visited. Whenever they did, he usually stayed at the apartment overnight, so I chose a day he was out. It was my first time in a bar. R picked the place, said that if we were going to meet, it should be somewhere for adults. Online, he sounded sincere, a little soft and youthful, but in person, he was cool. Honestly, too cool. Long legs, silver hair falling over his shoulders, a line of earrings glinting under the light. People in the bar couldn't help glancing at him. I hesitated. "Are you R?" He nodded casually. "Yeah." I wasn't a good drinker, so I didn't dare drink much. Turned out R was even worse. Half a cocktail later, I knew everything about him, including his grandfather's name. His real name was Leor. a soft-sounding name that fit him. He came from a family of musicians. Parents, grandparents, everyone played piano. Naturally, he did too. Looking at his androgynous features, he was just a kid pretending to be cool. He sighed at me. With a face like yours and you still can't get someone, maybe you really are doomed. This guy had claimed he would give me advice. Clearly, he just wanted someone to vent to. Pretending to be cool must have been exhausting. When we left, he wrapped an arm around my waist, refusing to let go. Then, suddenly shy, he murmured, "Actually, if it were you, I wouldn't mind." Online strangers weren't always trustworthy, meeting them wasn't always safe. I helped him walk, deciding to send him home first. But when I looked up, I froze. Thorn was standing not far away, half his body swallowed by the shadows, expression unreadable. His eyes were cold and sharp, and I had no idea how long he'd been standing there. Lior ended up getting sent home by one of Thorn's friends. Outside the car window, the city lights were lively and bright, nothing like the cold, heavy silence inside the car. At first, the navigation voice played normally. After barely 2 sentences from the electronic voice, Thorn snatched the phone out of its holder in irritation, and tossed it aside. It hit something with a loud thud. My heart jolted with it. I opened my mouth, trying to say something. Thorn tapped his fingers against the steering wheel, his voice level and unreadable. "Why did you lie to me?" My stomach dropped. Earlier that afternoon, when he was about to head out, he'd asked me to come with him. Said the restaurant he booked had great pastries he thought I'd like. He also mentioned that it was just his friends, and I'd met most of them before. So I casually made up an excuse, told him I had to stay in the lab all night to monitor data, wouldn't even be back to the dorm. And then he caught me like this. No wonder my nerves were unraveling now. I stammered, "The schedule shifted. I didn't need to finish everything tonight." I knew the excuse was flimsy, but I couldn't come up with anything better. Thorn didn't say anything, didn't push further. The car stopped at a red light. He stared straight ahead at the blinking countdown numbers. After a long moment, he finally asked, "When did you meet him?" His profile reflected faintly on the window glass. I mumbled, "Just recently, we met by chance, talked a bit, so we grabbed a meal." Thorn let out a cold laugh. "A meal? At a bar?" As the light turned green and the car moved forward, his tone sharpened, a quiet edge filling the small space. "Rowan, you've really grown bold. Lying to me for someone you barely know." Thorn was truly angry. Angry that I lied to him for a stranger. He kept his face cold for days, not speaking to me. He left early, came back late. I barely saw him. Even our academically oblivious roommate eventually asked if Thorn and I had fought, because the gloomy atmosphere was affecting his studying efficiency. I was at a total loss. I didn't even dare explain, afraid he'd ask more questions, ask why I needed to lie, just to eat with someone I just met. If he kept asking, my feelings, those hidden, impossible feelings, would spill straight out. My chest tightened with dread. When I got back to the dorm, Thorn still wasn't there. I opened my drawer. Inside was the birthday gift I'd prepared long ago. White wrapping paper, carefully wrapped. My feelings tucked neatly inside it. A heat pressed against my chest, painful and suffocating. Just before lights out, Thorn returned. I lay in bed listening to him wash up, listening to him climb into bed, listening to the rustle of blankets as he turned over. So close, yet suddenly so distant. Half asleep, my thoughts scattered. I blinked, vision blurring, then suddenly remembered something, and jolted upright. The dorm was pitch black. I climbed down the ladder in the dark, grabbed my keys and jacket, and hurried outside. I was halfway down the stairs when a voice echoed softly in the quiet building. "Where are you going?" I spun around. Thorn stood on the steps above me, light behind him outlining his tall frame, his expression hidden in shadow. My nose stung. Of course he'd heard me getting out of bed, and followed because he was worried. That was who Thorn always was, and that was why I could never kill the tiny spark of hope I shouldn't have. Thorn kept a stern face as he followed behind me, all the way to the laboratory building. He waited while I fixed the errors I'd made from being distracted earlier. The campus was empty and quiet, only the two of us walking along the long avenue. Early autumn was cold. At least I had a jacket. He was wearing only thin sleepwear. I tugged his sleeve. "Thorn." He pressed his lips together, looking at me without speaking. I softened my voice. "Don't be mad anymore, okay?" In the darkness, the icy tension around him slowly melted. He reached out, pressed a hand to the back of my neck, half irritated, half helpless. "Let's go. It's freezing." What I didn't expect was that for the next few days, I still couldn't go back to the dorm. I worked in the lab every night, until Thorn, finally fed up, dragged me out himself. Our professors give way too much work, he grumbled. I didn't dare tell him I was catching up, because I'd fallen behind during the days we weren't talking. He ruffled my messy hair. So busy, do you have time the day after tomorrow? The day after tomorrow was Thorn's birthday. This year, his family was hosting a big event. Not just his friends. A lot of well-connected young people were invited. It was called a birthday party, but it was essentially a small social gathering. Thorn looked painfully handsome in a suit. I didn't dare look directly for too long. I ate a few pastries, lifting my eyes now and then, to check where he was. Your friend didn't come. A gentle voice sounded beside me. I looked up to see an unfamiliar face. He gave a hint when he saw my confusion. The bar in West City. I gave your friend a ride that night. Ah, the person who drove Leor back to campus. I recalled the scene and thanked him awkwardly. Sorry for the trouble that night. He smiled. Not trouble at all. Actually, it was entertaining. Entertaining? I was about to ask what he meant when Thorn walked over. He stepped directly between us, physically blocking me from the guy. He shot the man a warning glance before turning to me. Stay away from him. He's trouble. A real piece of work. The guy didn't argue, just smiled and walked off. Thorn wasn't easy to get along with, but he wouldn't embarrass someone in public, so that meant this guy probably knew him fairly well. Thorn hooked an arm around my shoulders, and took a bite out of the pastry on my fork. It must have been too sweet. He winced a little, then he leaned down and asked, "Bored?" I shook my head. A high society event like this was interesting enough to observe. The hand around my shoulder squeezed the bone lightly. Thorn frowned. Too skinny. Eat more. Then he piled a bunch of food onto my plate. Rowan, eat. I ate a few bites helplessly. He was too close. Warm breath brushed the back of my neck, heat slowly rising along my skin. My ears warmed. My heartbeat stuttered. He added, "Try the chocolate one. That one's good." I silently wondered what was wrong with him. Thorn was the center of attention, of course. In just a few minutes, several people approached him to greet him or flirt. I nudged him aside. "You don't have to babysit me. I'm going to walk in the garden." The cold air outside hit me hard, and my mind cleared a little. The garden was elegant, the lights soft and hazy. I wandered down the stone path with no real direction, until a faint, intimate sound drifted from ahead. In the shadowed corner behind the greenery, I saw two figures pressed close together, both in suits. My eyes widened, but before I could react, a hand reached from behind and covered my eyes. My heart skipped. The hand was warm and steady, carrying a familiar wood-toned scent. It was Thorn. One hand shielded my eyes, the other held my shoulder, turning me away. His voice came, cold and low, "Don't look. That's not something you need to see." I blinked uneasily and pulled his hand away, looking at him with a sudden panic I couldn't explain. His brows were drawn tight, his jaw set, his expression sharp. Under his breath, he muttered, "Unbelievable. Just my luck." My breath stalled. A wave of dizziness washed over me. The reality I'd been avoiding was ripped open, harsh and unkind. In that moment, every fragile hope, every flicker of warmth, every reckless emotion inside me, went cold. He and I, from the very beginning, we were never possible. Somewhere far away, I heard his voice again. Maybe I imagined it. "Rowan, what's wrong? Are you feeling sick? Why are you crying? What happened?" Later, I sat on the edge of the bed, watching Thorn talk on the balcony. He had taken off his jacket, now only wearing a fitted dress shirt. I stared blankly. When he hung up the phone, he walked toward me, crouched down, and brushed the back of his hand across my forehead. "No fever." I called Dar. "Chen, he'll be here soon." I shook my head. "Thorn, I'm fine. You don't need to call anyone." But he didn't listen. "No, something is off today. You should at least get checked." He stood to go downstairs for some warm water. I called after him. "Thorn." He turned. My gaze traced his features, too handsome for my own good, and I said, barely above a whisper, "I like men." I finally said it, but it felt like something inside me dropped away. I should be grateful he didn't react the way he did with Cassiel. He looked shocked, stunned, but he didn't tell me to get out. Still, if he ever learned I liked him, we wouldn't even stay friends. I forced a tight, shaky smile, trying to look calm. "I'm sorry, Thorn. I didn't mean to hide it. If it makes you uncomfortable, I can apply to move to another dorm." To keep him from thinking too much, I pushed myself to continue. "You don't need to worry. I won't make things complicated for you." Afraid he wouldn't believe me, I even lied. "Don't worry. I already have a boyfriend." Thorn froze. Something darkened across his face, his eyes turning sharp with contained anger. "Rowan, what did you just say? Say it again." He looked more frightening than Cassiel did that day. Fear and guilt twisted inside me. I whispered, "I'm sorry." Thorn let out a breathless, furious laugh, like a wounded, cornered animal. "Rowan, you're lying. You're with me all the time. Where the hell would you even find a boyfriend?" A vase on the table cracked sharply. My eyes flinched. I didn't dare look at him again. Thorn stormed out, and before leaving, he shot me a look, one full of hurt. I'd ruined everything. I'd ruined his birthday. Our relationship plunged straight into an ice age. After that night, he never came back to the dorm. I kept sending him messages apologizing. None were answered, but at least, he didn't block me. That was the small comfort I clung to. I went to the basketball court once just to see him. He looked so cold the entire team kept their distance, and so did I. I ultimately submitted a request to change dorms. If I left, maybe he would return. I grew afraid of going back to the room. It was meant for 4 people, but without Thorn there, it felt unbearably empty. After class, I hid in the lab, burying myself in data until my thoughts went numb. Eventually, my teammates forced me to leave, saying I needed rest. I found myself opening my phone again and again, staring at my chat with Thorn, the last messages far in the past. The only new notifications were from Lior. "How have you been lately? I picked up a performance gig at a club. Want to come watch? It might help you relax. I can save you a seat." I almost laughed. So he's planning to play piano in a bar. I appreciated his kindness, but right now, I felt incapable of doing anything. Looking down at my wrinkled shirt, dazed, I thought, maybe I should at least shower. But when I opened the dorm door, Thorn was standing there in front of his desk. A few textbooks lay pulled out on the surface. My hand tightened around the doorknob. He didn't look well. I'd done this to him. Gathering every bit of courage, I spoke, my voice rough. "Thorn, you don't have to do this. I'll move out soon. You don't have to. You don't have to avoid the dorm because of me." Thorn turned to face me. His eyes, usually warm whenever they landed on me, were now dark and unreadable. He suddenly asked, "Have you done it?" I froze. What? Thorn stepped toward me, his tall frame casting a shadow over me. His voice was low, strained. "I'm asking you, have you been with him?" I understood instantly. My fists tightened, and I turned away. "I don't know what you're talking about. It was a lie." Thorn let out a short, bitter laugh, the words edged with hurt frustration. "Did you enjoy it? You and him?" "Thorn." I shoved him away sharply. He staggered a little, then lowered his head and let out 2 hollow laughs. He left. He didn't even take the books he'd come back for. When the door closed behind him, I slid down the wall, exhausted, burying my face in my arms. How did it get this bad? My phone lit up on the floor. A new message appeared. Kaylin says, "Do you have time this weekend, Junior?" The restaurant was elegant, almost refined. Kaylin smiled at me with gentle teasing. "I thought your excuse about being busy was just a way to avoid seeing me. But now, it seems you really weren't doing well." I knew I looked terrible. I apologized quietly. "Please don't tease me, Senior." I had turned down his invitations too many times. I didn't have the heart to refuse again. He took a sip of wine. "Do you know what you look like right now?" I forced myself to swallow the food in my mouth and shook my head. He raised a brow. "You look like someone nursing a heartbreak, completely out of it." I didn't deny it, even if it was just a crush that had died before it ever had a chance to live. Kaylin gave a small laugh. "It sounds heartless, but I'm kind of glad." He looked at me with a gaze tinged with desire and hope. "If you're heartbroken, doesn't that mean I still have a chance?" I smiled bitterly. "I'm sorry, Senior." Kaylin had always been a gentleman, measured, respectful, never pushing. When we left the restaurant, he suddenly leaned in close to whisper near my ear, "If you ever change your mind, come find me." I refused his offer to drive me back to campus, because I didn't want to go back. By the time Lior arrived, I was already half drunk. He wasn't the comforting type. Every sentence he uttered felt like a needle poking at the sorest part of my chest. Half dazed, I told him to shut up. He sighed helplessly. "Then maybe, you should consider me instead." I had no choice but to chase him away. He left reluctantly, glancing back with every few steps. I lay on the hotel bed, face buried into the sheets. The after-effects of alcohol rose slowly, and with the blurring of my mind, all the emotions I had been suppressing for so long broke loose. I couldn't hold back my tears. Eventually, I cried myself into a haze. I was woken by a phone vibrating non-stop. My head was heavy, and I fumbled blindly for my phone. The screen lit up with countless missed calls and messages. With trembling fingers, I tried to open them. A call came in. Thorn. It had been so long since he called me. I hit the green button. His voice burst through, sharp with panic. "Rowan, where are you? Tell me where you are. Who are you with? Through my haze, I thought vaguely that his voice sounded frighteningly intense. Answer me. Who are you with? Rowan, say something. The alcohol numbed my nerves. My voice barely came out. Rowan, please talk to me, okay? You can't be with someone else. I won't allow it. Rowan, please, I'm begging you, tell me where you are. His voice, so harsh at first, cracked toward the end, like he was close to crying. My nose stung, a sudden ache flooding my chest. My voice was raspy, nearly broken. Thorn, I miss you. I didn't know what time it was when I fell asleep. When I opened my eyes again, I saw Thorn's face, so close. This had to be a dream. And if it was a dream, then I didn't have to hold back anymore. I wanted so badly to hold him, so I reached out and wrapped my arms around him tightly. Thorn, I'm scared. Tears slipped down as I spoke. In this dream, he didn't hate me. He held me just as tightly, his voice warm and steady. I'm here, Rowan. Don't cry. I buried my face into his chest, breathing in the familiar scent that made everything feel even more overwhelming. Thorn, I didn't mean to lie to you. I was just scared you'd never talk to me again. Thorn cupped my face, full of aching tenderness. I know. Seeing it all made me realize, this is on me. I was blind, so late to understand. I was greedy for this version of him. Tears kept falling. Only in this dream could I say the words buried deepest in my heart. Thorn, I like you. I really like you. So please, don't hate me. He pulled me into his arms again, so tightly it felt like he wished he could merge me into his heartbeat. How could I ever hate you? I like you so much. From the very beginning. I'm sorry, Rowan. This is all my fault. I'm the idiot who made you hurt. His embrace was warm, so warm. I never wanted to wake from this dream. But then, I blinked up at Thorn's face right in front of me again. He wasn't angry anymore. He brushed his hand gently across my cheek and pressed a soft kiss to my forehead. Why are you staring like that? My mind froze. It took me a few tries before the words came out. Thorn, why are you here? He frowned slightly, then sighed. You're not allowed to drink anymore. Then he corrected himself. When I'm not around, you're definitely not allowed to drink. I sat there eating the breakfast he made, listening as he explained everything from last night. The more I heard, the redder my face became. I avoided his gaze and murmured, how did you even know I met with my senior? His expression darkened immediately, then he forced it down so I wouldn't get scared. The top student told me. I blinked. The top student, Thorn explained, when I wasn't going back to the dorm. I asked him to keep an eye on you, to update me every day. I stared at him, stunned. I thought he had been furious with me that whole time, but instead, Thorn hesitated, then continued. And he told me you went out with some guy off campus, and that you even texted saying you weren't coming back to the dorm. His voice cooled noticeably. I stammered, trying to explain. It wasn't a date. He's a senior who used to help me academically. It was just dinner. Thorn suddenly leaned in front of me, crouching down, looking up with eyes so gentle it made my heart tremble. Rowan, I want to tell you this again. Properly, face to face. My heart pounded wildly. He smiled, soft and warm, and touched my cheek. I like you, Rowan. He leaned in, brushing a light kiss against the corner of my mouth. My face went up in flames. He stood, ruffling my hair affectionately. He told me to finish breakfast and that he would buy me fresh clothes. Before leaving, he turned back and said, I saw it, your message. It was the best birthday gift I've ever received. I blinked. Today, it felt like all my secrets had spilled into the open. Inside the pen box I gave him, I had hidden a small note. I thought no one would ever find it. I bit into my sandwich and unconsciously touched my lips, unable to stop smiling. Oh no, what was happening? Why did happiness arrive all at once? Was the universe finally being kind to me? After I finished breakfast and took a shower, Thorn returned with several bags. He set them down and helped dry my hair. The warm air made my mind fuzzy. It felt good, safe. I leaned back slightly, feeling his warmth behind me. Everything still felt dreamlike. In that soft, hazy atmosphere, drowsiness washed over me. The hairdryer clicked off, and Thorn wrapped his arms around me from behind, whispering, Sleepy? I nodded, then shook my head. He chuckled softly. Suddenly, my feet left the ground. I yelped. Thorn carried me to the bed and leaned over me. My voice trembled. What are you doing? He pressed his forehead lightly against my cheek in a playful, affectionate way, voice brimming with joy. Baby, I'm your boyfriend now. Of course I'm doing what boyfriends do. You were half asleep last night, so I spent the whole night figuring out how not to mess this up. His gaze held more emotion than I could handle. My heartbeat drowned out everything else. So fast. Thorn's voice dropped, warm and low. The moment I opened that pen box, I already wanted to hold you like this. My barely functioning brain blurted the worst possible line. You're not scared of this anymore. Thorn immediately leaned closer, voice firm. I'm scared, but never of you. I rested against him, my consciousness blurring again. Thorn brushed away my tears with soft kisses, his voice overflowing with affection. I love you, my Rowan.
And that's where today's story leaves us, right in the middle of a storm of emotions. What struck me the most is how real the characters feel. Rowan's quiet longing, his fear, his hesitation. It's not dramatic for the sake of drama. It's the kind of emotional mess many people experience, but never say out loud. And Thorn, he's a contradiction wrapped in sharp edges. On the surface, cold and untouchable. Underneath, fiercely protective in ways even he doesn't understand. The author does an excellent job building tension through small gestures. A hand on the shoulder, a borrowed bottle of water, a glance that lasts a bit too long. These tiny moments hit harder than any big confession. If there's one thing the story could have done better, it's pacing. Some emotional beats hit fast and hard, almost too quickly. A few scenes feel so intense that I wish the story had slowed down just enough for the characters, and us, to breathe. But maybe that's part of the charm. This is a story about confusion, about the fear of losing someone important, and about two people who keep circling each other without realizing they're trapped in the same orbit. So tell me, which moment hit you the hardest? And what do you think about Rowan and Thorn's dynamic so far?